Give me just a moment. And I think I'm joined with Chuckie Campbell. He's with me right now. What's going on, man?
Yes, yes. Live and direct from Buffalo, New York. What's going down?
I'm good, man, and thank you so much for joining me on the show this evening, man. I truly appreciate it.
That's no problem at all.
And before we go any further, I want to tell people a story. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but I did see you perform before. It was at Frankfort, Kentucky. You were performing at and this is how I became a fan of you, by the way. So I was coming off of a wrestling show, the WWE house show at Lexington, and my intent was to go to that Frankfurt bar and to see a group perform called the Highs and the Lows. I'm friends with those
Yeah.
guys, and little did I know, it took me 30 minutes to get off the parking lot. It took me another 30 minutes to get from Lexington to Frankfurt, and by the time I get to Frankfurt, the Highs and Lows were nowhere to be found. They've already performed, and they couldn't, last through the entire concert, if you will, because they had to perform at the church in the morning. And
hmm
you want to guess who I saw perform when I actually got there? It was you,
Oh,
Chuckie. It was you.
very dope.
So I was there for a brief moment. I couldn't stay up late because I had to go to work in the morning. But I saw you perform a couple of songs, and I was like, wow, this Chuckie Campbell dude, he got bars. I'm impressed, man. And that's how I first heard of you. And you was there with Hybrid, who I'm gonna have on the show next week. He's from Frankfurt, my neck of the woods. He's a very good guy, and that's how I became a fan of you, or under odd circumstances, if you will. But consider me a fan of yours.
Yeah, man. Like I really appreciate you listening to the music or whatnot. I know Hybrid really well. He's a very, very talented dude. That's crazy how you just kind of caught me, in that strange space.
Yeah, and it must have been close to midnight by the time I seen you perform. And
hmm
like I said, I was only there for a few minutes, and I saw you perform one or two songs, and then I had to head out. But like I said, I like what I hear. You got something about you. Your style is a different feel to it. It's not like anything else I hear in hip hop artists these days, and you're in your own lane, and I respect that. Uh, and that's how I would best describe Chuckie Campbell's hip hop approach, if you will. And what I want to, my first question for you, Chuckie, is exactly what made you decide to become an artist of music.
Yeah, I've been doing hip hop for a long time, man. I think I mean it's I've been in the game for over 15 years. I really started going hard at it in the last probably two or three though. When I started out like doing hip hop, I had a really good friend of mine named Ralph Prater, and we kind of bonded over like doing verses together. It's like we had a relationship where we just like to share art with one another, and we would go out to these coffee shops and we would spit verses for the crowd, and like every week, we were like comparing each other's verses, and eventually that turned into going to like freestyle battles in Lexington, Kentucky. Um, we used to go to this place called Yats. It was in South Hill Station. It was just a really cool kind of vibe, you know what I'm saying? At that time, that was before Eminem or anybody else had hit, you know what I'm saying? Like that was, I think we're looking at late 90s, maybe 99, 2000, something like that. So I've been doing this for a minute. My interest in hip-hop was like, you know, it's always been there, but it was allowed me to enter into the world of ideas in a different way. So I got to capture different things as, kind of changed my life, so to speak. Um, but yeah, it's a twisted, long story to try to describe.
Well, let me just say that white rappers, in general, outside of Eminem, I guess how do I say this is that they have there's talented rappers no matter what the color of their skin, but it feels like when they look at a white rapper not named Eminem, it's like they get looked at differently, or they get a different feel. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's people maybe that they don't take you serious. They don't take a lot of artists seriously, or they don't think they're going to succeed or go far, whatever the case may be. And do you think that there's some stereotype going on around here based on the skin of white rappers, or do you think there's more to that?
No, that's definitely something that goes on. I mean, if you're a white rapper, you can't just be any white rapper. You have to be extremely talented to turn heads. And then even on the other side of it too, just coming from that outsider perspective, you also get hate from the other white rappers. Like, so you're always being, like, the other white rappers, it's like they don't want to admit that you're good, right? So, like, you're always, like, it's like a white rapper never wants to give another white rapper shine, you know what I mean? And you look at the whole situation, the stuff that happened, like, with Macklemore and Kendrick, where, Kendrick's album, obviously probably deserved to win that Grammy, but then you have someone like Macklemore who's really talented, but at the same time probably didn't deserve to win that award. He was aware that the color of his skin kind of got him to that place, So there's still like a lot of like weird racial tension there, and every time one of those situations pops up, it becomes a little bit harder for the next person to enter the door, you know,
I could def
unfortunately.
I could definitely understand that. I mean, I remember how people reacted, especially after the Grammys, how much heat, how much tension, how they feel towards Macklemore. And I mean, my response to that is that although Kendrick had a good 12 months, so did Macklemore. He had just as equal amount of success that Kendrick did. And maybe the skin may have played a role of him winning. Oh, I mean, I don't know. I don't think that's the case. I think he worked hard. I would say Kendrick deserved to win at least one or maybe two of those awards that Macklemore won. But
Hmm.
I guess a lot of people feel like hip hop haven't really has not been represented properly throughout the years, and the whole Macklemore and Kendrick play, was definitely an example. And I give Kendrick props for how he handled it, how he conducted himself, and do you really think that Macklemore really needed to put that text to the public? You know, I don't think he
Hmm.
needed to. Like you won, you say your thank yous, and if you feel a certain way, I mean that's fine. Do you really think he really need to put that text out there for everyone to see?
Yeah, it was unnecessary. He didn't have to do that. It was like that extra step too that made it kind of feel ungenuine. Like the fact that he shared the text. It would be something different if like it was only him and Kendrick and none of that got shared. Like it didn't get passed around. But to put it out there, like it's almost like he wanted it to be publicized. He wanted it to be known. You know, so I don't know. I don't agree with him doing that. He doesn't have to forfeit his hard work to, kind of even the scales in that situation.
I completely agree, man. I completely agree. Um, I also want to get into a few topics, man. I want to talk about the music video you put out recently. Talk a little bit about the song and the video, and how did it feel shooting the music video?
Oh yeah, so we just released a new music video. All I Meant is featuring Cole Janique. She's out of Nashville, Tennessee. The song is attempting to describe situations of domestic violence. And verse 1 describes the narrator's struggle with codependency with the person that is commonly in conflict, you know, with another person. And then the second verse is attempting to describe what love isn't, in a hope to kind of initiate the healing process. And then the last kind of open free verse poem at the very end of the song is going into that emptiness that that person feels initially after the breakup is consummated. As far as the video itself, we shot everything in Los Angeles, California. Um, Stevie Pine is the guy that directed the video. He's incredibly talented. He did a great job editing it and shooting it, and just had all of these great ideas that he wanted to work with. We had Precious Laney, who is the dancer in the video, right? So she's doing like some kind of contemporary, almost ballet-like moves coordinated to the music. And that was an experience altogether. But then what I didn't anticipate is the way that it was received. The Source picked it up. Just a lot of blogs have been picking up the video, and we're getting a lot of attention for it. So,
Well, let me just say that I appreciate artists like you that is willing to not only put out the song that you did, but the message behind it, and it just shows that there is substance in hip hop out there. Is that there's more to hip hop than bragging about what you have, how much money you have, how much woman you can get, and the houses and things like that. When you started off being poor, you didn't have all the things that you rap about now. That artists like yourself is willing to go the route that you did, and to have a message behind it. And don't get me wrong, I love the love and party songs. I love the party like the next fan. And maybe that's how I felt when I was young, started listening to hip hop. But now, as I grew older and I become wiser, if you will, it's all about substance. It's about meaning. There are people out there that's listening to these artists, and whether the artist wants to embrace it or not, you got people that's looking up to these artists. Like, you're supposed to be the voice of the next generation, and you shouldn't be. Don't just talk about what you have, or what people don't have. You could talk about what you could do, for not just for your peers, but for the community that you grew up on, or the families and friends, etc. So I want to acknowledge that, and again, thank you, Chuckie, for putting out that song in the music video, because there's still hope for substance in hip hop. At least that's how I feel about it.
absolutely, man. I'm with you 1,000% on that. I think the commercialization of the culture kind of overweighs all of the other substantial artists that are doing really interesting music right now. Like, what we need is like a better balance. It's not that there's not a place for the club songs and those other songs. Those songs are really good songs. I listen to those songs too. But the problem is that there's not, that other side of hip hop isn't publicized enough. It's not commercialized. It's not brought into the spotlight, and so no one gets to see the rap song that cuts deeper, that makes you think, that changes the way you look and see the world. You know, and I think that's important to show both sides, right? Um, you know, we used to have like a different kind of balance. You know, with you have like an artist like Tupac, right, who could
Mm-hmm.
make thoughtful songs. You know, Brenda's Got a Baby, you know, Dear Mama, like these really substantial songs. But then on the other side, he could make commercial hits too. You know, where people could dance and enjoy themselves and let loose and let go. You know, a lot of MCs kind of miss out on that balance now. You know, especially the ones that are coming up and they don't know any better, right? They don't start out with those artists that have instilled the responsibility it takes to write a good song and know that there's a whole community out there that's listening and vibing on your words, right? That are really kind of patterning their thoughts and their lifestyle around the things that you say. So, I mean, especially with All I Meant too. You know, I think domestic violence is something that people are too silent about anyway, and that's probably the reason a lot of people don't understand the complexities that go along with it. Um, and we need more dialogue about it. You know, when you look at the things that are happening in the NFL right now, you know, look at the Ray Rice situation. You look at the situations that are just happening, you know, on the daily where women aren't really valued in our political culture, social political culture, where they don't have all their reproductive rights the way they should. You know, we got a long way to go, you know, to understanding the issue in a more in-depth way. So I'm glad that someone like you can respect where I'm coming from, you know, and see that I'm going for that.
I completely agree, and I say continue to do that. You know, the fact that the source, one of the biggest publications in hip hop, is listening and promoting it. It just shows that, hey, you know, that there's still room for substance, and I guess the more publicity it gets, the more balanced that hip hop will be back to what it once was. Um,
Hmm.
so I also want to get into this tour that you have been on. Frankfurt obviously was one of the cities you performed. What was it like getting the chance to perform, getting the chance to interact with old fans and new fans, and just traveling around the country? What was it like being on the tour?
It was amazing, man. I was put on the tour by Deep Thinker Records out of Buffalo, New York. Um, I got to travel around with two great artists, one being Willie Green, who is a producer in New York City, Brooklyn. He's recently, I guess he engineered some of the Wiz Khalifa album that came out and went number one. Like I guess he recorded the Schoolboy Q verse on that album. He was traveling along with us, so he was like backing me up on the DJ front. And then Prim Rock, who is another like really established underground artist, was traveling around with us too. I mean, we had everywhere. We were in Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Iowa. We were in Illinois, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Montana, North Dakota. So these are all places that previously I had never really saw even the landscape of them, and let alone to walk into a situation where I can present my music to people and touch people and really have conversations with them was a crazy experience to have. Everything seems to be traveling at this moment very quickly, like it's just moving really fast. It's hard to really get a grasp on how fast things are moving just because of the nature of them, like the way it's taken off. While I was out on tour, like I literally physically sold out of CDs. You know, by the last couple of shows I had no CDs to give people. So that's not a great thing, but it's not a bad problem to have either. So
You know, there's always gonna be, you know, the good with the bad, and at least you can say people are buying your records and that
Yeah.
And clearly you got have a buzz going. You got a sense of momentum in your favor. So at least people, people are listening,
Hmm.
and that's good to know. Another topic I want to get into, Chucky, is the C2 movement. Talk a little bit about that.
We have basically a team that we assembled together. It started back when I entered this contest called Grammy Amplifier, and there was a song called The Streets that I released, and everybody started like kind of getting behind me. We ended up, I think this song was shared over 95,000 times, shared and played, um, which is amazing. And we had the highest numbers in the contest, but then I was disqualified from the contest because I didn't know that I wasn't allowed to use the sample, right? And so they disqualified the song, so I didn't get to go perform at the Grammys. But during that experience, people started to really get behind the movement, right? And so it wasn't just something surrounding one song anymore. It became like a bigger entity. And now, anytime I drop a video or I drop a new song or when the album comes out, these people work work in unison to create like a kind of synergy that pushes the music out farther than it normally would be able to get to. So they act almost as a street team. Whenever uh, they purchase merch or whatever, I ask them to take pictures of them and then tag me in it, and this creates a larger kind of organic promotional tool. Like, so people who have never heard of me before see that their friend is wearing a shirt. They ask them about the shirts, and somehow they become linked or become interested in what's going on. But I could never do anything that I'm doing right now without them. They're the fuel that goes into the car. You know what I'm saying? that takes us anywhere. So I can't say enough. Team C2. That's the movement, baby.
Well, I for one appreciate it, and let me just say that it is very unfortunate that you was DQ'd over a technicality like that, and I'm 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 appalled that they will have a rule such as that. I mean, the fact that you have the buzz that the song was getting, and you made it that farther in the competition, and I mean, I'm flabbergasted that they did you like that, man. They
Yeah, it was a
they
bad letdown. It was a
so
bad letdown.
yeah, but again, I guess it just goes back to the you take the good with the bad and just and you move forward from there. And before I let you go, Chucky, why don't you go ahead and promote your links, and where can people listen to your music?
You can find me on Bandcamp at www.bandcamp.com/ Chuckie with an I and an E, Campbell. You can also find me on SoundCloud. Um, and hold on, let me get this link so I don't give you the wrong one. um, so it's at www.soundcloud.com / Chuckie with an I and an E, um, Campbell. And really, if you check those two links out, you can find anything else that I got going on that's new. Also, you can find me on YouTube. That's definitely something that's growing, and a good old-fashioned Google search, putting my name into the Google search will show you everything that's going on right now, and there's a ton. So you'll get 25 pages of Chuckie Campbell right there. So I want to thank you for supporting the movement and invite me on the show. It means a whole lot. And I appreciate you asking thoughtful questions. So,
Well, Chucky, it was great having you on the show, and thank you for being on as well. Everybody, make sure you go check out the new music video that's been put out. Check out his music, and hopefully the next time you come back to Frankfurt, I'll be able to see you perform a whole set without the circumstances part. But nonetheless, thank you again, Chucky, for being on the show. Continued success, and have a good night. Have a great weekend. Again, thanks for being on the show.
you too, brother. Take it easy.
All right, you have a good night.
Peace.
All right, everybody. That was Chucky.